Hello and welcome to Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. I am your host, Jay Cluett, and on this show, myself and my regular co-host, Mark Hoffmeyer, have swapped my way through, dived through all three Deep Blue Sea films, scene by scene, chapter by chapter. Now looking at some Deep Blue Sea adjacent films. Mark isn't always here. Mark is not here today, but we are looking at a Deep Blue Sea adjacent film, which is a film directed by Renny Harlin, or aquatic action involved, or has some sharks in it. And this is very much the latter. This is a shark film. So today we're talking about Empire of the Sharks. What is Empire of the Sharks? I didn't know, but it's a film recommended by our guest, who we'll introduce very shortly. Empire of the Sharks is an asylum film from 2017. The possible sequel to Planet of the Sharks, which I haven't seen, which we'll get into. But it stars Jack Armstrong, Tandy Sabay, Ashley DeLange, Leandy Durant, Tariq Jenkins, Tapua Musfosvi, Camilla Waldman, Jonathan Bynard, Joe Vans, and John Savage in villain mode. The only actor on that list you might recognize if you're not an aficionado of these kinds of shark films. And this is it takes place on a kind of a water world type film where all of the planet is underwater. Everyone is on these kind of floating platforms. John Savage's character has got some kind of a pirate monopoly on clean water. And a small, it's not really a village, a small outcrop, a small community tries to fight back. And there's also a lady in it who can maybe control sharks with her mind. Who can say? It's a fun film. We're going to get into a lot of stuff in Empire of the Sharks. But I need somebody who is way more familiar with this film than I am to talk about us. He's been a guest on before. He is our official shark movie expert, I think. Going by the list of, he's seen the most shark films more than anyone else I know. It's Kevin Culp. Kevin, welcome back to the show.
Such a joy to be back. Thank you for having me, Jay.
Kevin, for any of our guests who may not remember you, you have a list. Your like pandemic mission was to watch.
Right. So some people during the pandemic learned a new language. Some people went out of their way to help folks who were in need. And my friend and I watched 142 shark movies. So watched and ranked. I think it's important to note that Empire of the Sharks comes in at number 10, and that is not based on its quality. It's based on how much fun it was to make fun of while we were watching. I've seen it 3 times. I love it with all my heart, despite my better reason. There's probably something wrong with me, and I cannot wait to discuss it.
That's it. So it's number 10. It's above other films we covered on this show. It's above 47 meters down. It's above The Shallows. It's above 47 meters down. Uncaged. It's above Shark Bait, which I would agree should be above Shark Bait. It's above all of the Jaws sequels. It's above Deep Blue Seas 2 and 3. It's above Bait. It's above Ice Sharks. Again, that's fair. It's above a lot of films we covered and enjoyed. Before we get into it, why?
Yeah, and the reason so of course, I mean that's a reasonable question because it is not a better movie than 47 Meters Down. 47 Meters Down was great. The Shallows, one or two quibbles aside, was fantastic. Yeah. Empire of the Sharks was neither of those two things. But what Empire of the Sharks boasts, and we will discuss this, is the single-handed best bad guy, well, not bad guy, but bad guy lackey of any of the shark movies that we've seen. Maybe any movie I've seen ever. It's up there. Along with, hands down, the single worst heist movie I could possibly imagine. Imagine a heist film where nobody affects anything and everybody does the stupidest thing possible. That would be this. So it's hard to say no.
And have the team of heist members be not terribly well acted, I would say. It would be another stipulation.
It's important to note, Jay, that you mentioned that this might be a sequel to Planet of the Sharks. It's also possible that Planet of the Sharks is a sequel to this. It's a little bit unclear timing-wise.
I have not seen Planet of the Sharks. I was looking forward to asking you. Because I just glanced briefly at some research and said, it's a sequel to Planet of the Sharks. Maybe. I thought, what does that mean? And I couldn't find out. So.
Well, I hope that I can talk with you if you do decide to go over Planet of the Sharks, because
sure.
It takes place clearly in the same world. It's unclear whether it takes place before or after this one. Planet has some really amazing casting choices, but I think it's probably a different discussion.
Sure. Well, I'm more than up for covering other lesser quality shark movies, but I feel like I don't want to become the bad shark movie podcast. So we'll definitely cover Planet of the Sharks. We'll definitely have you back on to cover it. It just won't be like next month.
Thank
It'll be
God.
like
Okay.
sometime in the future. I can't just watch these films. I need to like, we talked about The Lighthouse recently. That's a completely. I need a variety of cinema. We talked about Gun Wedding. Mark and I talked
Well,
about recently.
your big challenge, Jay, is that you have hundreds of really bad shark movies to cover and only a handful of really good ones. So,
Yes,
I'm
yes.
wishing you luck. That's for sure.
I think we've covered all of the good ones. Is the problem? We've never covered Jaws. Someday we'll cover Jaws. I'm sure. But at this point, what's left to say? So
Yeah.
that's why we haven't really done. Like we've done the sequels, but we haven't like. Well, everyone knows Jaws. What can we? Yeah, we really like that bit where the head pops out. Like we can't really.
I'll tell you a very quick story. When I saw Jaws, it was in the year it came out. We saw it in a drive-in theater. My sister and I were lying on top of the car roof while my father was behind the driver's seat. And at the scene in Jaws where the head pops out, my father reached up his arm and grabbed my sister's thigh. I was like, I don't know, 9. She was probably 12. I've never heard anyone scream that loudly in my life.
Me and my mum tried to do something similar when my sister and her friends rented Scream by like phoning the phone in her room. But we didn't have quite the same effect. It didn't really work. That's what we tried.
Trying matters. So let's talk about Empire of the Sharks.
Absolutely. So I watched this on Pluto TV where it's playing for free with ads. So anyone out there who wants to watch Empire of the Sharks is also on YouTube, but it's missing the first minute, I think. So it's out there. You can watch it. I would recommend it if you like this kind of films. We've previously covered Ice Sharks and Ghost Shark and Shark in Venice. It's in that realm of really quite entertaining to watch, but don't go in expecting a good film. I watched this with my wife. She is not a bad film aficionado. She said this was awful, but she said she said Ghost Shark was better. Which your list agrees with, and I was thrilled that she remembered Ghost Shark. So, so Empire of the Shark. Where to even begin? Should we go through the plot? Should we just talk about it as a whole? I don't even know what to do with this film.
Okay, let's say this. By the way, I went, since I've seen it now multiple times. I bought it this time. It cost a whole $6 American, and I consider that money well invested. So,
outstanding.
I think probably maybe we start off by talking about the rough plot, and then we'll sort of dig in as we go along, because there's so much to talk about.
Okay. So the rough plot is there's this small community on is it Karatoa, I think is what they call it.
It is Koratoa.
Okay. So we kind of open on this community. It's like floating platforms. Something happened to the planet that made all of the waters rise. Presumably global warming, but who knows? And at this point, IMDb says 98% of the land is covered by water, but there is a story later in the film where John Savage says there was fighting for the mountaintops and then they disappeared. So I think 100% of the world is covered by water at this point. I think it's just a water world at this point. I disagree with IMDb. So
I'd be cautious about looking for consistent continuity.
Fine. Yes, absolutely. So our hero is Timor, although it's ages before you hear his name said.
It's Timor, Timor,
Timor.
which we generally speaking refer to as Tumor.
Okay. I just called him Guy for the longest time, so I didn't know what his name was. Like Guy and Friend were the names of the characters I had.
So if you want to picture what Timor looks like, folks, imagine a dollar store Orlando Bloom, only with his ears sticking out more. And that's what he looks like.
I would say that is fair. Yes. He is useless in every single possible way at everything he tries to do. And fails at everything.
He doesn't quit.
He doesn't quit, but he also doesn't succeed at anything he tries. So he is part of this community. This community is attacked by pirates, led by Mason Scrim, one of those wonderful character names, played by Jonathan Pienaar. Maybe the best performance in the film.
Probably. Jonathan Pienaar has also been in Six-Headed Shark Attack.
A
Though
bunch of this cast have, I think. There's a few members in here. Yeah.
He did not shine in Six-Headed Shark Attack the way he shines here.
Just,
And he works for John Savage, I think. Is that right?
he does. He's the great Ian Fenn is his name. But he says the great Yen Fenn. I was expecting this to be like Chow Yun Fat later in the film, but it's the great Ian Fenn, warlord of the water. He owns the rights to. He graciously lets you live upon the water, kind of a thing. So Ian Fenn, it's just a terrible villain name, like Ian.
Well, to be fair, he's also a terrible villain. I mean, Mason Scrim is really his sort of PR guy. He's the person who gets sent out to terrorize people. He does all the hard work and spends most of his time talking about how great his boss is.
I think that henchman name of Mason Scrim, that's a great bad guy name. It's just so disappointing. No disrespect to all the Ians out there. Your name is a terrible villain name. You're like a hero or a sidekick name. Ian is not a bad guy name, I would say. I had a lecturer called Ian. He was a great guy.
Mason Scrim, that's a bad guy name.
Mason Scrim. And Mason Scrim, in this global heat wave, sun-scorched planet, he has decided that the best costume to wear is a full-length black leather duster at all times. And I love it so much. It's a ridiculous choice. He has like long hair to go with it. He must be boiling every second of the day.
This is a great example of the rule of cool, where you are a much better bad guy if you look impressive and terrifying, even if it is dramatically uncomfortable.
Yes, and the other article of clothing that we cannot forget he's wearing is, of course, the gloves.
Yes, he controls sharks through Nintendo Power Gloves.
So I forgot to mention in the intro is that not only is there a character who can control sharks with their mind, they have developed technology to control sharks with gloves. And they are like thick black motorcycle gloves studded with red LEDs, essentially on all the joints on the fingers. And you control them. It's kind of like Tom Cruise in Minority Report, but with more like fist pumping and clenching and hand waving to somehow control and manipulate sharks to attack or go wherever you want and leap through the air balletically. If you want to have a drinking game for Emperor of the Sharks, you can drink every time a shark jumps. They'll have a good time.
We're going to be very, very drunk. These are very leapy sharks. Whoever did the CGI has not heard about gravity. And they are they're probably crossed with orcas or dolphins. They are very leapy.
They're flying fish.
You should have a picture in the show notes of Nintendo Power Gloves. Do you remember those, Jay?
That's a little before my time, but I am aware of them. Yes.
Basically, if you needed something to control sharks, it would be Nintendo Power Gloves. That's basically what the bad guys are using here.
The Wizard was about the Power Glove, wasn't it? The film The Wizard, I think.
Or, I don't know.
Which I want to say that starred Fred Savage, no relation to John Savage. Fred Savage in The Wizard, which is a film about the Nintendo Power Glove, basically. From 89.
So Mason Scrim shows up at Koratoa. He demands that they pay him the tribute, I think it is, that they owe.
It's basically Seven Samurai minus Seven A Bug's Life, that kind of thing, where there's some warlord demanding things from the farmers. And they haven't got enough, and so he says, tomorrow I'll double your tribute. And to help them out, he takes away 5 or 6 of their healthy women, healthy girls, as he describes them. And amongst the people taken away is Willow, Ashley Darling's character. She is a mysterious character whose father was a shark cooler, potentially, which is somebody who can speak to sharks. And who gave her a sunstone, which can be used to tell the time, and also potentially has the power to talk to sharks, but turns out the power was inside her all along. It's a little airy-fairy.
Yeah, let's dig into this a little bit. So Willow is a very, very pale-skinned blonde. When Jay says that she's mysterious, what he really says is she's a bad actress. And
I mean,
we counted. Do we agree that she's one of the main characters?
She is one of the. character may be a little strong, but she is a focal point of the film.
We counted. She speaks exactly 148 words
Oh
during the
my.
entire movie. 697 characters, 27 lines.
Oh
She
no.
does brood a lot. There's a lot of pictures of her just sort of looking sullen. Maybe she has to go to the bathroom. And brooding at the camera. So
But
that
she is more useful than Timur in that she's
Oh.
the one who saves the day at the end, but she does so underwater, staring at the camera. So she's not really able to talk. If you were to count the lines that she says to the sharks in like shark mind language, then it's just a solid wall of text the whole way through the film.
hugely.
She's
Um,
never not talking to the sharks.
Willow apparently had a father who was like a legendary shark caller. And I guess he died when she was little, and he gave her this amulet that basically looks like a fidget spinner. But didn't bother to tell her what it did. No one who she lives with has bothered to tell her that she's a shark caller or that shark callers exist or anything else. Until the end of the movie, after she's already discovered her powers, where we discover that 3 or 4 people there in Koratoa are already shark callers. Did they do anything to stop the attack? They did not.
I hate the villagers. I hate them so much. There's like these 3 main village elders who are stationary. They're just standing in spot. Every time we cut back to them, like days later, they're still stood in the same exact formation, wearing the same clothes. They have like they all speak like a third of a sentence each. And yeah, at the end, she's given the ceremonial shark caller paddle and shown how to do this kind of Tai Chi on the dock. Which, yeah, I hate them. They're awful. So Willow is taken from Mason's grave.
Yep.
Taken back to, I didn't write down the name of his.
Hawksbill Fortress.
Yes, Hawksbill Fortress. She's taken back there. So Timur and his friend Sion. Very few of the names are said regularly in this.
Yes,
it's Ian Fenn is said a bunch of times. Very few other
That's
names are
because
said.
he is a good PR man.
He does, makes sense for him. So Timur and Sion head out to try and retrieve her back. They have this submersible, a 2-person submersible, which they go to check out the fortress. They get there. Timur gets out and tries to fight his way in. Fails because he's very bad. And also because the great Ian Fenn has an army of sharks with lights just next to their mouths, which is somehow controlling their brain via the gloves. And my favorite detail of the whole film is the captive area that these sharks are in. The entrance to it is a big metal shark mouth. I love that detail. Underwater, nobody ever sees it because it's fully underwater. But we get to see it a bunch of times, and it just opens. It doesn't open like a shark mouth. It's not hinged. It's just it moves kind of laterally, and the sharks will swim out at will. So that will definitely be an image in the show.
We both know that giant shark mouth was designed and built by Mason Scrim because he's the one with the style, not by the great Ian Fenn. Yeah. It's worth noting that every single one of those sharks has clearly had an electric light installed in them, probably like with some sort of neurosurgery. And this apparently in a world where like in order to make potable water, they have to have a bunch of slaves turning a crank.
I mean, there's a guy on a laptop on a boat at one point, so I don't know what's going on.
That said, that guy, well, we'll get to it, but that guy does look a lot like Peter Jackson. Anyways, so this submersible that they jump in, do they think about jumping into the submarine in order to get away from the bad guys? They do not. Do they think about using the submarine to, in fact, double their harvest for the next day and buy their people back? They do not. Instead, they think about stealing the submersible and going on failed rescue attempt number 1. You can tell when you're looking at the inside of the submarine that it's actually built out of wood. In order to escape after they fail in their first attempt, they have to dive really deep to get away from sharks because apparently sharks don't know how to dive deep underwater. The submersible springs multiple leaks. Whoever built this doesn't know how water pressure works. So instead of actually spraying bone chopping, flesh cutting jets of water into the
It's a little
cockpit, they just
dribble.
sort of dribble. They dribble. It's a lot of dribbling, but that's what you get for a wood submersible.
Yeah, so I mean, I was looking into because I was working out how deep and blue the film is later on in the show. I was looking into like how far can sharks swim down depth wise. It's pretty darn far. It's like 10,000 feet deep they can survive. So with like 3,000 meters. So I had to assume that they've taken this submersible down to below that depth. That makes zero sense when it comes to the heist recruitment, which we will get to soon, because of the skills required for one of the characters there. But so I had to assume, yep, the submetal's gone down that deep. It's not swimming back. I think it could have been that's the range that the glove power has. When they start to reach the end of that, it physically hurts them. They turn back. That's some kind of nonsense that maybe could have been explained in the film if that is the case.
It's
But
really, really insightful. I hadn't thought about that. Did you catch the point, by the way, when Timur is swimming desperately away from his first failed rescue attempt, gets back into the sub while it's underwater, except the sub has no airlock?
yep, I did. But there is one brief shot, so they are fully meters and meters deep underwater, like a whole host of sharks swimming towards them. There is one quick shot of the sub is up on the surface and he gets in, and then it's shot back down underwater again. It's just terribly edited. It doesn't make sense in the scene, but I swear somebody watched it and had that exact same thought. Because I had the same thought yesterday. I watched it yesterday and then kind of again today. I kind of half watched it and just keep an eye. So yeah, I picked up on that and I looked at it again. Oh no, they did. They cheated. They cheated with that little shot. Yeah.
It did switch places at some point, though, who was sitting where. That was a missed in their editing. Anyways, so they failed. What do they do, Jay?
They head back home and they gather up all the valuables they have and they head out to form a heist team. So they take the sub. The valuables they have are like a bag of black pearls. That's from the oyster cleaning section, and then just a bunch of crap. Just a bunch of knickknacks and tchotchkes that I guess that's all that they have left in this world. So
Elders tell them not to bother, that, you know what, it's okay to sacrifice a couple of people for the good of the village.
I love that.
The elders apparently don't care that the girl that Willow is the daughter of the great shark caller,
who saved them all.
That's right. Whatever. I'll point out that Sion, who is Timur's sort of sidekick in this, she's a pretty good actress. She's not given anything to do, but she's one of the less objectionable people to watch, I would argue.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the film, there's a lot. She's also in Six-Headed Shark Attack. At the end of the film, there's a line where like, "Oh, I had a lot of help from my friends." That's from Timur, and I was thinking about like, wait, what did she do? And she doesn't, other than donating the oysters and like stopping him from attacking the pirates at the start of the film. He's just kind of there.
Trick question, Jay. He doesn't have any friends.
That's true. There we go. Yes, he had a lot of friends. A lot of help from the friends in his head.
Right.
The voices. So they head to this notorious hive of scum and villainy. They find out somewhere where a guy pretends to throw up on them as they go in. There we go. Tries to steal all of their bag of goodies, and they make it their way in, and they form this team. And the team is made up of eventually 4 more people, but initially 3. We have Nimue. I don't know. Her name's never said. I think played by Leandy Durant, whose superpower is she can hold her breath for a really long time.
Diver. Yep.
Yep. She's a free diver, but there's like a breath holding competition where they all have like buckets of water, despite everywhere being water. Everything is water. They still have buckets of water indoors. Where there's just 3 people with their heads in it, and she can hold her breath for a lot longer. With her, she has like an Irish pimp kind of guy who like takes around showing her off and conning people into thinking they can beat her, and that guy's never seen again with his immaculate hat and look. Everyone's clothes are far too nice.
Yeah, her breath holding pimp. But I'll point out that immediately after she removes her head from the bucket after holding her breath the longest, she announces that she's done this like 7 times so far today. Also, her
10.
hair is dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she emerges from the bucket with a full shampoo advert, hair toss, full 180. It's glorious. So she is recruited just from a sense of doing something else other than prodding people. Then we have Edgar, Tariq Jenkins. He's developed miniaturized sonar equipment that fits into his ear, which is revealed by he's listening to somebody playing Find the Lady with conch shells and a ball, and he can hear where it is, and he wins the bet, and he gives the money away to other people who are betting. I don't understand his motivation there other than just to try and he's like they're trying to get recruited to a gang, I think, just trying to surreptitiously show off his skills.
I think his
But
motivation is that the writers are bad.
yes, okay, that works. So he's recruited, and then our third one is Toby Papua Mosvosvi. Apologies if that's incorrect. Toby has a diving suit. That is Toby's skill. He has a deep sea mask of some kind. He wants to blow things up, and his main acting talent is putting his hand in front of his face. Which
That is actually his main acting talent. I would like to point out that all three of these people, as part of the heist gang, accomplish nothing.
Yep.
Absolutely nothing. This place for the recruiting people is like the version of Mos Eisley, where Luke and Ben Kenobi go in order to find someone who will take them out. That's what they're trying to do, except everybody sucks and nobody's good at their job. But he does he gets his heist gang, kind of.
Well, I mean, the Toby's suit comes in useful. That is used by Timor later on, and because that's what he uses to swim through the metal shark mouth at the end. That's how he gets in.
Oh, I hadn't put that together. Okay, fair enough.
Edgar is there to do the sonar map of the facility,
Which
show if there are any more. Well, I mean, that maps out where the entrance is.
You mean that huge entrance that you can see that he already found earlier in the movie? That entrance?
Yeah. And Nemu's role is to like act as a distraction and get the sharks away, which she does successfully do, I guess. But
successfully loosely because they eat her.
Yes, I mean we don't see that, but yeah, it's implied. We never see her again. And so they need a boat. So these three, who apparently all like know each other and have worked together before, I think, because they all band together and steal a boat, which happens to be Mason Scrim's boat with a bunch of stuff for Ian on it, to make the water purify the desalinator. I can't remember what the word is, but I think it makes fresh water. Getting some gear for that.
They've got right now a bunch of slaves who, back at Hawksbill Fortress, are walking around in a circle doing the Conan grinding the wheel thing, walking around in a circle. Apparently they're making fresh water. And they have on order a desalination kit, which is being delivered. And lo and behold, Timor and his friends have stolen the boat, which has that desalination equipment.
Yes, I feel like there would be some way of that being powered by tidal energy, given that they're at sea.
Wind.
Or solar, or wind. Or they have these things in abundance, but they're going to use like manual slavery. And then when people are too slow, they get fed to sharks.
Right, because that is actually really good for your workforce, right? If you don't have enough people to do stuff, feed them to sharks, and that will motivate everybody else.
Absolutely. And the lady who was fed to the sharks, she like stumbled once. She like stumbled, wasn't given a chance to get back up again, immediately fed to sharks. So you cannot slip up once. So there's a walkie-talkie altercation between Timor and Mason Scrim about the stolen boat and the missing equipment. Timor, terrible at negotiating in every possible way. It's awful.
Here's what an effective heist plan would have been. You have the boat with the equipment which the bad guys want. You crew the boat, take the boat to the fortress with the equipment, and then steal away with the slaves. Instead, Timor gets on the walkie-talkie, says, "We've got your equipment. Release the slaves." The bad guys say, "If you don't you send our equipment right now. We're going to kill the slaves and kill everybody in your home. At which point, what does Timur do? He breaks down apologizing.
Yep. I mean, at that point, the only thing he could have done was say, I mean, if you do that, I'll destroy all your equipment, and you'll have nothing. But even then, that's a weak point. So yeah, he's terrible. He sets out on the wrong foot. Gets worse from there. So they just send the boat back on its way, and then they haven't got a boat again.
He uses the phrase, "This is a foobar snafu."
Yeah, some kind of foobar snafu.
And he could not, dominance-wise, he could not roll over anymore. He refers to him. He says, "I'm so sorry, Mr. Scrim, sir." He's not endearing himself to the audience. So that's failed plan number 2.
And as a kind of punishment for this, they, over the walkie-talkie, they leave the line open whilst they kill someone else from Korotoa. Right. And Captain Anne Aldrin, Camilla Wardman, she's listening in. She's like the hard-nosed boat captain who runs the dive bar or just lives there anyway. She refused to help. Listening to that, she's like, "Oh, I'm going to help now." But I loved after Mason Scrim uses his power glove to kill the sharks to kill the latest victim. Completely naturalistic line. "Who's your daddy?" is what he says to killing her. Does not fit in that situation at all. Is terrible.
He's clearly
he
having fun.
Absolutely.
Captain, what's her name? Anne something?
Anne Aldrin.
Right. She's a dollar store, a knockoff version of Carrie-Anne Moss from The Matrix. About the same age as far as actress, looks a lot like her. She says, "Well, you can use my boat. I have been convinced by your plight." Despite the fact that she completely rebuffed them earlier when he came asking her for her help. So we've now got the captain who has a boat. We've got the explosives guy. We've got the free diver, and we've got the sonar guy. And this is about this time that the boat, which they had captured and sent back to the Hawksbill Fortress, arrives.
Yes, I forgot. So, no time at all seems to pass between the boat being sent off, the boat arriving.
The whole movie takes place in, I think, a day. There's all of these places seem to be about 2 or 3 miles apart. Like, they're all really close.
The sun never sets or moves at all. It's all just, And then, so the boat arrives back at the Hawksmoor, and then Mason Scrim then goes from there to Korotoa. And all of this is...
Edgar blows it up.
Yes, that's it. And then the boat blows up because Toby planted some explosives on it.
Toby, yes.
Because they didn't send the gear back off. They hid the gear, replaced it with explosives. They just blew it up. And that was why they were being punished to kill. That's why the lady was killed at Korotoa. That's punishment for that. Yeah.
This is failed attempt number 3 because all the bad guys are on the boat when the explosives are about to get off, and Timur actually warns them to get off the boat via walkie-talkie, thus keeping the bad guys alive while still making sure they're pissed off.
Yep. Again, he's utterly useless in every possible way. So
very loyal though.
But now they have a boat and they have a plan. And their plan, Timur now doesn't want to do anything. He backs out, but the rest of them will manage to convince him to do it. So it's fine. And so the plan is that they're going to use Edgar's sonar capabilities to map out the facility, the fortress stronghold. Then they're going to use Toby's diving suit for Timur to go in and save Willow, whilst Nimue is dives really deep on her own as a distraction. She'll dive really deep until the sharks can't follow her. So she's going to dive 10,000 feet deep on her own. Humans can survive 60 feet deep.
So she's a free diver. She says she can go down 50 fathoms. That's about 300 feet. They've got an oxygen tank. She doesn't bother to bring it. She does dive down about 300 feet and then gets eaten by sharks.
Yep. We never see she dives down and then she turns around and heads back up again. And when she gets to the surface, that's when she is. But that's 2 more people die between now and then, or 1 more, I think. So they head out to do this plan. They need to get pretty close to the fortress for the sonar to work. And it turns out and this is why Mark is kicking himself not being on the show. They have a catapult. Mark loves his catapults. So there's a scene where they've got to get close. They're going to get within catapult range for Sona to work. So then Timor is like, I'm going to be a distraction, and he whips out his motorized surfboard, which is basically a jet ski. So Mark again kicking himself, missing the catapult jet ski scene in this shark movie. I've told him he needs to watch this film. We may do another episode on it.
They have forgotten the fact that Timor has a submarine. They've just forgotten it. They left it behind. No one ever mentions it again. It would have been really handy at this point.
To be fair, I'd forgotten they had it.
So while this is all happening, meanwhile, back at Hawksbill Fortress, the bad guys are learning that Willow may be a shark caller. They go to kill somebody and the sharks don't want to eat that person. They're coming up with some kind of weird electromagnetic interference. Willow, meanwhile, doesn't know what she can do, doesn't believe in her own power, and pouts a lot. Someone who looks exactly like Peter Jackson with a baseball cap and sneakers, while everybody else is sort of dressed in post-apocalyptic gear, including, did you notice, all of the servants, all the guards on Hawksbill Fortress are all dressed in pretty much BDSM gear. Leather pants, collars.
Well, I got a Deep Blue Sea 3 vibe from this all just very muscular male, half-naked crew. Like, all of the bad guys are just kind of physical male specimens. Most of the captives are women. There's a lot of, I don't know, questionable gender dynamics going on.
It's fair statement, yeah. So this technician guy decides that he can put, what's his name?
Jasper,
yes, Jasper, who looks a lot like Peter Jackson. Puts a hat on Willow. It has a chin strap, and ostensibly it has electrodes. None of the electrodes actually touch her skin. Nope. So the fact that he doesn't pick up any brainwaves from her, I guess, is not too surprising. But then they put people in danger and try to catch her, what she's doing, in order to control the sharks. Even she doesn't believe she can control the sharks at this point.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think she ever did. But I believe that she could. I believe she can control it. Yep. Yeah, because at one point they're trying to sacrifice a man. They're trying to send him to the sharks, and it's not working. And they check. Oh no, the glove's working fine. Everything's working fine. Unless we start interfering with the sharks. So they bring the man out and just try a lady instead. They try Willow instead. I was like, well, you haven't changed anything. You haven't. You need to. This isn't going to solve the problem, and it doesn't. Anyway. So they get within sonar range. Timor gets out his powered surfboard, and he heads out to be a distraction. So they launch the catapult random chunks of metal and machinery at him, whilst they get close enough to use the sonar. They manage to get close enough. They map out the whole facility, and they're like, "Quick, get away!"
For them, but they sure do. Yep.
Well, so they're quick, get away, because to this point, the great Ian Fenn has unleashed all of his sharks and chasing after. Excuse me. They're chasing after Timor, and so he's coming back, and then Mason Scrim uses the shark glove, and a shark takes out Timor, and you think, oh no, our incredibly charismatic hero has died, but it's fine. The shark just knocked him off of his motorized surfboard, and he's completely unscathed.
Did you notice that they're using that catapult to try to destroy the boat, which is bringing to the fortress the equipment which he demanded they bring to the fortress?
Yeah. But do they know that's on there?
Oh, do they not know? Who can say?
It's got to be somewhere, I guess. It would make sense for it to be on there. So Timor is then swimming back to the boat. Toby's there. He's reaching down, and despite there being a man in the water, the sharks instead hop up and drag Toby off of the boat, and he's gone forever. And Timor survives, which
is racists. That's what
absolutely, yes, 100%. We've seen it before in Deep Blue Sea. We see it here again. To be fair, Sam Jackson was nearest to the water, which was not the case here because Timor was in the water.
This is the point when the great Ian Fenn says, "Release the kamikaze shark."
Yes.
Imagine, this is, by the way, in all the shark movies I've seen, this is the only time I've seen a goblin shark. Goblin sharks
That's
are
what
the
it
ones
is.
with those
Yes.
cool underslung jaws that look like alien when they come out.
Yeah.
Only this one's loaded with explosives.
Yep. Actually, I forgot when they were on the boat and they were like Edgar was trying to get his sonar to work and Toby's getting on with him. Uh, Toby's insult to him was like, "Calibrate yourself." I thought nice
It's
little
my new
insult that I
go-to
enjoyed.
insult.
Yeah. So they release the kamikaze goblin shark. John Savage just gives his best villainous laugh, which is not very villainous at all.
Oh.
So yes, this shark covered in bombs emerges and heads for the boat. At this point, that's when Nemu is doing her free diving, swims away to make the sharks all go away, but the kamikaze shark does not follow her. And somehow, Timur is now using the Toby's sea mask thing to go and swim into the facility. So Captain and Aldrin realizes there's a shark coming. Sion does her one heroic moment in the film where she takes the wheel of the boat, just because so Anne does something else, and grabs her gun, shoots at the goblin shark, misses. They all get off the boat, they all start swimming, but Edgar does not survive. Edgar is taken out.
Why was Anne in this movie? She does. I mean, I know nobody does anything with it that makes any difference, but really, Anne's whole job here is to be disbelieving quite correctly, tell Timur that he sucks quite correctly, shoot a spear at a shark and miss, and then scream everybody off the boat as her boat gets blown up.
I mean, not every character has to advance the plot. I guess she's a colourful character. Of the acting wise, I think she is definitely in amongst the best in the film. Mason Scrim is the best, definitely, but Miller Waldman as Aldrin, I think does a good job. She's like a bitter, salty sea captain.
You're on Team Anne. Okay, I'm with you here. Okay, that's fine.
But I agree. She doesn't do a lot. She just then is in the water, and then she and Sion make it to the side, but immediately get cast back out to sea to sacrifice people to the sharks. They tie them up on these rubber rings on these big inflatable donuts, and so they get tied to those and left as shark fodder.
Here that Willow starts to begin to discover her power. She slaps the water, slap, 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 slap,
yes,
and somehow
she hasn't got the amulet anymore.
Right.
Very influenced taking the amulet now. Now she's realizing the power's inside her all along. Yeah.
So if the power is inside of her all along, why does she have the amulet? Why does the amulet mysteriously and magically glow?
Well, I mean, the amulet, when we first see it, is being used to tell the time. So I don't know if the amulet is anything other than just a sundial. And when it's glowing, the sun's just catching it at the right angle.
I guess I think that there was some indication that it glows when she shark calls, but maybe it's a psychic amplifier of some kind. Man,
it's supposed to, but it doesn't. It doesn't correlate at all. It doesn't.
No, not so much.
It's just a shiny rock in a fidget spinner, like you said. So she's using her carry, but with shark powers, and manages to make all the sharks jump around and kill everyone.
They're so jumpy, and it's great. Willow becomes a mass murderer, right? All these sharks just start leaping, eating people, jumping over docks. I mean, it's pretty glorious. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and Timur has made it up, and he's like freeing slaves left and right.
It's punched in the face by somebody on the docks, and it's really the only moment of almost heroism he has, as the guy completely knocks the lights out of him.
I do like so to is this when Mason Scrim gets taken out?
No, it's just before when Mason Scrim gets taken out, because I think Timur sort of wakes up with Mason Scrim coming after him with two machetes.
Right. Yeah. So inside his long black velvet duster, he also has two machetes, which he's not been used at this point. So yes, he draws them with that nice noise, which I always enjoy in films. Actually, the reunion. I have to talk about the reunion between Timur and Willow, because they haven't seen each other for 4 to 5 hours, and They've been through so much, and they meet, and he's gonna have this big heartfelt reunion, and this is expressed with hi.
So there are some legendary film couples where the romantic electricity just ripples between them, and then there's Timur and Willow. Who
Hi.
like never maybe she's deigned to talk to him 3 or 4 times in her life before today, and he's basically an incel who's decided he's gonna rescue her, and so that's what he's gonna do. I don't know if she appreciates it or not.
No, but I had to pause it because I was laughing so much at just the reunion of High. That got me. That took me out of the film a lot. I also enjoy that Ian Fenn's. He's annoyed at Willow. He wants to get rid of her, so he throws her in the water, despite knowing she can control sharks with her mind.
It's not the cleverest of plans, but this isn't a movie where everybody makes clever plans. There's this moment after Ian breaks Willow's necklace, and Timur, if I wrote this down, says, "The power resides within you. The amulet resonated with your power. It was never the source. You are a shark caller." I just picture her making telemarketing calls.
It's every cliche, isn't it? Earlier we had no lone wolf stuff. We do this together or not at all. See, this isn't an advance. This isn't a script full of new terms. We're gonna go down in history.
Oh, and to answer your question from beforehand, Mason Scrim had been sent to Korotoa to destroy it and came back and got called back by Ian before he destroyed it. And so this is about the point where his boat arrives back at Hawksbill Fortress, which is why he's suddenly able to confront Timur in a pretty fun machete battle where Timur is getting his ass kicked until a shark kills Scrim, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because it's okay that Timur's not very good at fighting because Willow can control sharks with her mind. So a shark leaps from the water, drags Mason Scrim down, and he is dragged through the water, stabbing at it with 2 machetes, but does not survive that encounter.
Does go out like a badass, though. I'll say that. He goes out fighting.
He does indeed, and Jasper is taken out as well because all of the bad guys decide that the best thing to do in this world of floating platforms where surrounded by sharks that can be controlled by the minds of a lady is to keep running across these floating platforms and stopping halfway across them. So of course they will keep getting taken out.
Well, they'll learn eventually. Ian Fenn dies in a pretty fantastic way.
Oh my god, it's incredible.
Imagine him in the water. In sort of a Christ pose. 2 sharks swim up on either side. One shark grabs each of his arms, and then another shark flies from the opposite direction through the air and chomps off his head.
That is the most detailed shark, is the one that flies at his head. But even before, to get him into the water, there is a rain of sharks. All of the sharks around fly up it's literally flying because they go so far up in the air. It's a full perfect parabola of sharks descending upon him.
Well, they have that sort of basically a shark tennis match where Ian Fenn is telling the sharks to eat Willow, and Willow is floating underwater with sort of a blank look on her face, turning the sharks back around towards Ian Fenn. And the sharks go back and forth a couple times like a good game of table tennis before Willow eventually wins. And that's when the rain of sharks come.
She's doing the full Chris Pratt in the Jurassic World franchise, arms out, controlling the sharks. Because whenever they come towards her, she does no, wait, turn around, and they turn around. But she's underwater for a long old time as well. If the other lady can hold her breath, Willow would maybe win that competition. I don't know. But yeah, Ian Fenn defeated everyone. They take the desalination equipment back with them.
So Jay, imagine that you lived on a little village, okay? Floating in the water with not a lot of space and not a lot of luxuries. Imagine that somebody had just killed the main bad guys who live in this vast floating fortress filled with luxuries and potable water and food and probably a lot of slaves and all kinds of riches, what would you do to that fortress? Would you
Well,
keep that fortress?
if I well, I would prefer to, but unfortunately, our hero Timur has emptied the ballast tanks and sunk it.
Timur
So,
sinks the fortress with all the slaves in it, with all the servants in it, with all the food in it, with all the potable water in it, with
yeah,
all the equipment in it. Timur's not very good at his job.
but they save the one slave that we've met, the one who's like helped Willow out. They bring her back, and then she's hugging like Sion later on as if they're mother and daughter, which could be a subplot that's been taken out. I don't know, but there's like a shot of them reuniting, despite never interacting before. I don't know. We don't even know that she's from Korotoa. She'll be from some other commune.
Right.
So yes, this is when the village elders reveal that they've known all along, and they can train you in the ways of the Force, and give her the ceremonial sharp paddle. Timur and Sion tells Timur that he's going to need to like step it up if he's going to try and date Willow now. She's a shark taller.
Do you think anyone ever tells Willow that at one point Timur, after things went badly at that bar, Timur basically literally says, "We're giving up. We're not going to do this anymore." Like
I made a promise to her, but I'm going to renege on it now. I tried a couple of times. I mean,
no one ever says, "Hey, Timur, where'd you leave the submersible?"
Yeah. Well, they do say, when you set out to go and save our people, we were tempted to just banish you from the village. What? Why? What for? What? For what purpose? Because you were on board with the occasional mass sacrifice.
And no. I mean, it ends all more or less well in the long run, right? They get almost all of their slaves back, except for the ones who've been eaten. Willow is now a shark caller who's being trained by apparently other shark callers who were in that village all along and yet took no action. They're no longer under the thumb of the great warlord Ian Fenn, but they could have been so much better. So many people died. Everybody in the heist gang died. No, maybe the captain lived.
Yeah, the captain lived, but the rest of the gang died.
Yeah, I guess I don't have to pay him.
Yeah, true. I mean, I'm not sure they're going to get paid anyway. So they said anything that any loot you get from Baltimore gets split. The captain gets half after expenses, but they didn't get anything. So
that's because they sank it.
Yeah, that's because they sank it.
That's right.
So she's welcome to claim all of it from the bottom of the sea.
I'd like to think that there's a world where Willow becomes the new great warlord, where she and now her army of sharks goes around to terrorize other villages as she rebuilds her life as a sociopath.
I mean, I'm here for it. I assume that's what Planet of the Sharks is about.
If only.
I'll have to wait and find out. So, how is Deep Blue Sea? This is a feature I do every time we cover a new film. Here I have a little list of how this film is like Deep Blue Sea. Let's keep this in. This is Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. We have to tie it back in somehow. So, women are described as healthy girls, just like Janice is at one point after she has passed away. There are sharks who have received scientific modifications. There is a lady with a hidden key. It's her sunstone. There's an aquatic prison. We see sharks being fed. A boat blows up. Ian Fenn tells a survival backstory. It's like Russell Franklin does, but Russell Franklin delivers it much better than Ian Fenn does. It's so stilted. They talk about a license plate inside of a tiger shark. That happens. I mean, it's a reference to Jaws, but I don't care. It's Deep Blue Sea. There's a skeleton crew. You can tell the bad guy's boat because it's got skeletons on it. I liked that initially as well. There's skeletons on it. There's a harpoon spear gun. The facility sinks at one point. A lady tries to control sharks underwater with her hand, just like Susan does by cutting her hand. She controls the shark underwater. And a guy is dragged through the water by a shark while stabbing it. Which of course is Preacher, and in this case is Mason Scrim. So not the most sharks that like Deep Blue Sea similar, but it's a fair list. And
yet Deep Blue Sea is such a better movie 100%. Than this one is.
But where this film might be better is how deep and how blue is Empire of the Sharks. So I've gone through and worked out, approximated how deep the action is at every point in the film and how long it's spent there, and
This
how
part.
blue
Okay.
each scene is at any given point. So, as everyone knows, Deep Blue Sea is on average 14.5 meters deep and about 31% blue. Kevin, do you think Empire of the Sharks is deeper and or bluer than Deep Blue Sea?
I think Empire of the Sharks is deeper. If they go deep enough in their wooden submarine in order to have a sort of trickling leak happen, they could be pretty far underwater, Jay. That's my
And what
theory.
about bluer?
Oh, bluer, that's a good question. Well, almost every scene involves the ocean. There's almost no scenes that are inside. So I think that we're probably going to end up maybe 50% blue.
Okay, well, you're correct in both counts in terms of it is deeper and bluer. This is our 6th deepest film that we've covered. Because in the opening credits, we see Big Ben. It's like is underwater, and so that's where kind of the opening credits are. And so I kind of looked into it and worked out or researched Big Ben. The height of that is about 97 meters, well, plus 11 meters above. It's about 108 meters above sea level. And if Mount Everest is underwater, if all the mountains are underwater, then that's 8,849 meters tall, which means that Big Ben must be at least 8,741 meters. So for the opening credits, at least we are that deep. But that's only for like a few seconds. But then yeah, I took into account that they're going below the shark-friendly levels, so they are going below 10,000 feet deep whenever they are down at that depth. So this works out on average about 284 meters deep, which is deeper than Sphere, but less deep than the Abyss. That's where it sits on our chart. And in terms of blueness, so that's deeper than 47 meters down, deeper than Ice Sharks, Deep Sea 2, etc. The only ones that it's shallower than are Abyss, The Descent, Aquaman, Leviathan, and Underwater. Underwater, our deepest film. A very, very deep film is Underwater. Blueness, I worked out about 33% blue. This is a third of this film is blue. Essentially, they are underwater all the time. Whenever they're underwater, pretty much everything is blue. When they're above water, there's a lot of blue sky, a lot of blue ocean. A lot of blue, which makes it's next to Deep Blue Sea. This is now between Deep Blue Sea and Deep Blue Sea 2. This is 0.01% less blue than Deep Blue Sea 2. So, it's our 19th bluest film.
When I was on the Deep Blue Sea 2 podcast and I made fun of all the colored lights in the hallways, those colored lights were making it less blue.
That was my favorite chapter to work out how deep and blue it was, because I knew exactly how deep and blue it was. Because it was like exactly this amount was red, this amount was green, this amount was yellow, this amount was blue.
We're doing God's work. I want to make one thing clear, though. Like, we've been making fun of this movie. This movie is a huge amount of actual fun. Like, it's not a good movie, but it's really kind of fun to watch.
Comparing this to Ice Sharks or to Ghost Shark, I would say this is a more competent film. It's like it's trying to be a bad, like Ice Sharks, Ghost Shark feels like they're just trying to be a silly, fun, like so bad it's good film. Empire of the Sharks, I feel like is trying to be a sensible, sincere. So it's not like trying to be out like, yes, they have the glove that can control sharks, but it's played in a way like this could happen. This is like serious. It's less jokey than those ones.
So, there's some movies where you can really blame the directing, or you can blame the costuming, or the special effects folks. And I think this is a movie where who we blame is the writers. Because while the acting was not great with a couple of exceptions, it also wasn't like abysmal. The sets looked kind of cool. The sharks were great, right? Super leapy, super choppy. The fact that the plot it made sense. It was just really awful. I think the thing for me that differentiated it is that, considering that we had sort of a lead actor in Timur, he was just bad at everything he did. And he was bad in a way that made me think that the writers and director had to know how bad he was. And that's unusual.
Yeah, he's bad in a way that you think maybe somebody else should have been the lead character. Like somebody more competent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree that this is more of a fault with the writing. And the editing, I'm going to say that there's a few conversations where if you edit out some of the silences between them, it would feel a lot less stilted and poorly acted. Because it just feels like someone says a line, wait a couple of beats, somebody responds, And you could tighten that up. So I don't know if that's like me speaking as a podcast editor, who like can remove silences and make it sound more or less awkward.
We refer to this as my line, your line, and it's really a sign of amateurish directing, right? You see this in Mark Polonia's movies all the time, where someone says a line, there's a beat, someone else says the next line, and that did happen here. I would have liked to have seen this as Captain Anne's story.
Yeah.
You know, this weenie guy shows up with a problem, and it's all about her and how she makes it work instead of doing it the way they did.
I would have liked to see that as well. Yeah, that sounds good. Great. Well, thank you, Kevin, for joining me for Empire of the Sharks. Do you have anything you want to plug?
Let's see. I have recently been playing a bad shark movie role-playing game that I did not write, but which Andrew Orbital wrote from Occupied Hex Games, called Chum, CHUM. If you Google Chum and Occupied Hex, I'm sure you'll find it. It is a delight. I've been using it to run fun one-shot games based on crappy shark movies, and it's really good. And other than that, I don't think I have anything to plug, not shark-related at least. You can find me on Twitter at Kevin Culp. And in my Twitter bio is a link to the full shark ranking, which I keep track of over on Reddit.
Yeah, and we reference this for any future episodes coming up. Like, I have basically anything that you've put on your list is on my long list of films we're going to cover at some point. I guess all of them. Or maybe we will. Who knows? What is going to ask. But we mean in your top 10, we still have yet to do. I mean, Jaws. We haven't done the Meg yet. We should probably do the Meg before the Meg 2 comes out. Ozark Sharks we haven't done. I have that on DVD. Toxic Shark we haven't done, and Sand Sharks we haven't done from your top 10.
So Toxic Shark shouldn't be as high as it is, except for one particular scene, which is glorious. Sand Sharks is pretty fantastic all the way through, and you'll probably have fun with that one.
We'll get there at some point, but we'll definitely have you back for Planet of the Sharks, whenever that may be, and any other terrible shark movie you want to cover.
But don't make it too soon. There's a lot of fun in Planet of the Sharks, but you should do something better first.
Will do. I'm not sure what's coming up next on the show, but we'll come back in a couple of weeks to find out. But for me, you can hear Mark and I over on Con Air, the podcast, going through Con Air scene by scene. And you can hear me over on the Lambcast, hosting movie trivia, Lampardy, based on Jeopardy, roughly once a month. The schedule's all over the shop at the moment, but it's roughly once a month. And you can read my writing over at lifeversusfilm.com. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Deep Blue Sea Pod. Email us, deepblueseapod@gmail.com, if you have any other suggestions of bad shark movies or good shark movies or aquatic action films. We know all the Rennie Harlan directed films. You don't need to come and suggest those. We're going to get to the ones we haven't got to yet. There's a list of those. That's fine. But that'll do it for Empire of the Sharks. Thank you once again to my guest Kevin Culp. I've been Jay Cluett, and I'll Deep Blue see you again soon.